We're very excited to be launching the Joe Hill Roadshow here tonight, the 1st of May, 2015. The first stop in many stops across the Midwest and then eventually across the country. And it's appropriate in many ways that the Roadshow is starting here, and I'll just tell you about that briefly. One, the Roadshow is occurring because this year, 2015, particularly in November 2015, marks the centennial of first the execution of Joe Hill, the famed worker, poet, cartoonist, which many people don't realize, and singer and songwriter for the industrial workers of the world, and then his subsequent funeral right here in Chicago at the West Side Auditorium, which no longer stands. It's also appropriate, though, that it's starting here because when we think about the day that we're commemorating, May Day, May 1st, that also has deep ties to Chicago. I don't need to tell you much about what happened on the 4th of May, 1886, when workers who had gathered at the corner of Randolph and Des Plaines, because they were protesting for the 8-hour workday, but because they were also protesting against police violence, which had occurred the day prior at the McCormick Reaper Works. While they were there, in the midst of that rally, the police came to try to break it up, and as that was going on, someone emerged from the crowd, threw a bomb into the police. Ultimately, eight of the officers lost their lives. And they, one thing that we sometimes lose sight of too is that almost all of them, to a man, were immigrants, including 2 who were from Sweden, which is where Joe Hill was from as well. And then 8 men were put on trial. Now, none of them actually threw the bomb that resulted in the violence that day, and yet they were still held responsible for it because of what they had said or because of their role within the labor community and the anarchist community and the socialist community. And ultimately, 4 of them would be executed and 1 would commit suicide in prison. But that event, would inspire kind of countless generations of people to continue the fight for the 8-hour day and beyond. And so it's appropriate that, we're marking that occasion today with this remembrance of Joe Hill, one of those people who continued that tradition. And lastly, it's appropriate that we're doing it here at the Hideout, because the Hideout models itself off of an old 19-teens, 20s sort of bohemian nightclub, much like this called the Dill Pickle Club, which you may have heard of. The Dill Pickle Club was founded by many IWW members, including Jack Jones and James Larkin. And it also played an active role in keeping the memory of the story of Haymarket alive. So every 1st of May, there would be a special event at the Dill Pickle Club where Lucy Parsons, who was the widow of Albert Parsons, one of the men who was executed, would come and speak, and so would Nina Spies, who was another widow of one of the men who was executed. And they, much like the Illinois Labor History Society does today, would go out to Waldheim Cemetery and pay their respects to the men who died for the 8-hour movement. Also, James Larkin, one of the founders of the Dill Pickle Club, was one of the 3 people to deliver a eulogy at Joe Hill's funeral in November 1915, joined by Big Bill Haywood of the IWW and Owen Hilton, who was his attorney. And he also led the general strike in Ireland, true. That's great. Yes, feel free to just shout out your historical facts of me. I'm fine with that. But I've been, blathering up here for far too long, and we're here to hear some music. So I'll just say one more thing. So one of the first songs that kind of brought, Joe Hill to the attention of the broader IWW community, the broader labor community, was a parody of the famous American folk song Casey Jones. Only in Joe Hill's hands, it became Casey Jones, the Union Scab. And so I think it's appropriate that we have a real-life locomotive engineer here, J.P. Wright, who's going to be our first performer tonight, but who is most certainly not a Union Scab. In fact, the very opposite of that. And so without further ado, J.P. Wright.
Good job. All right. Howdy, folks, howdy. Howdy. Greetings from the Kentucky General Membership Branch. I am the delegate. So if you want to buy some stuff, I can fix your little card and stuff right on the little ticket, I learned to be a delegate, you need a fine tip Sharpie. I learned that. The first song that I'm going to sing is actually I don't know, has anybody in this room ever been to the Kentucky Derby? Good. It's the boss's party. Now, remember when the Dixie Chicks talked really bad about President Bush overseas and then their careers were murdered? Remember that? That's what happens if I start talking bad about the Kentucky Derby. But Joe Hill wrote a song, rewrote a song, to the words of My Old Kentucky Home. And I found this in the book and was amazed, because I grew up with My Old Kentucky Home, because in Louisville, Kentucky, the Derby is a very sacred event. Now, my family, being German Catholic, in Germantown, Kentucky, we had our Derby party, and we drew our Derby horses, and we went over to the bar called Tim Tam's, which was the name of a Derby horse, and my dad would go over there and buy couple tickets for us. He would, go see the bookie. Grandma would make German potato salad. My dad would tap the keg so that nobody coming to the party would get any of the poisons, which I learned that was a trick later on. That was a lie. But what happens is that on NBC, I think they're the ones that carry the Kentucky Derby. At 5 o'clock, they'll break in and they'll say the fastest 2 minutes in sports. And then the whole 15-minute or however long it is, coverage of the Kentucky Derby happens. Well, right before they're leading the horses to the thing, and they're gonna, the guy's gonna come with the bugle and do the call to the post. Right after the call to the post, on your program is My Old Kentucky Home. Everybody who's donning their gaudy, huge, bosses. They go to the Derby to act like the boss, If you're in the infield, you go to really scare your parents. But anyway, just ask Gunnar Thompson. But anyway, you got your mint julep, and all of a sudden, we will sing one song of my old Kentucky home. In the summer, the darkies are gay. But they took that out, of course, so they don't sing that anymore. So Joe Hill wrote, we will sing one song of the weak and humble slave, the horny-handed son of the soil. He's toiling hard from the cradle to the grave, but his master reaps the profit of his toil. Then we'll sing one song of the greedy master class, their vagrants in broadcloth indeed. They live by robbing the ever-toiling mass. Human blood they spill to satisfy their need. We will sing one song of the politician's sly. He's talking of changing the law. Election day, all the drinks and the smokes he will buy, while he's living off the sweat of your brow. Then we'll sing one song of the girl below the line. She's scorned and despised everywhere, while in their mansions the keepers wine and dine Papa John's, while the profit of immoral traffic bear. And organize, oh toilers, come organize your mind. Then we'll sing one song of the workers' commonwealth, full of love, full of beauty and health. Preacher fat and sleek, he's gonna tell you of homes in the sky, be generous, be lowly and meek. Or you're gonna get roasted when you die. Then we'll sing one song of the poor and ragged tramp. He carries his home on his back. Too old to work, he's not wanted around the camp. So he wanders without aim along the track. Then we'll sing one song of the children in the mill. They're taken from playgrounds and schools. In the tender years made to go to the pace that kills. In the sweatshops among the looms and the spools. Then we'll sing one song of the one big union grant. The hope of the toiler and slave. It's coming fast, it is sweeping on sea and land. To the terror of the grafter and the knave. Now, y'all gotta help now. Get your fake, mint julep. Organize, oh toilers, come organize your might. Then we'll sing one song of the workers' commonwealth. That's the most important part, so let's do that again. Wealth, full of love, full of beauty and health. All right. I have literally talked my head off today. And I'm nervous. Y'all are paying attention. This doesn't happen very often. Yeah, that's right.
There you go. Play it.
Now, there's something you got to know about Casey Jones. First of all, he wasn't a scab, of course. I joined the IWW and I made a big mistake. I made a post on the Facebook page, which is fun, I posted this song about, Casey Jones. And then this one kid, which is cool, I can't believe he was a scab. I'm like, hold on a minute, dude. I'm in the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers. Casey Jones was in the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers. He got his name from living in Casey, Kentucky. His real name is Jonathan Luther. And he was in a situation. Now I'm in this organization called Railroad Workers United. And we say, fix the hazards, don't blame the victims. So why are we saying that Casey Jones was a bad engineer? Because the whole story really is nobody really knows exactly what happened that night of the tragic incident where a fellow worker of mine was killed for the IC Railroad's time book. So, fellow workers, that's what happened. Why would he speed to get to the next station? Because he's probably got the mail and passengers, and the IC Railroad wants to be, we were on time. Because back in them days, that's how the railroads, they said, we're the most on-time railroad passenger service. So there's that part of the story. And then you've got Casey Jones, the Union Scab, of course. That was the most viral folk music probably that had hit the United States. Everybody knew Casey Jones. So, of course, he was going to use something everybody knew. And then I'm going to interject a little bit of a continuation here. Did anybody ever see that train that exploded in Canada and killed 47 people? Okay. Yes. Pay attention. All right. I'm going to screw this up so bad, but y'all will get it. I promise. And these books are for sale. They're really cool. You should go look at them. These are new books with weird pictures of hobos. They might be PG. The hobo convention's rated X after 11 p.m., trust me. Well, the workers on SP line of strike set out a call. But Casey Jones, the engineer, he wouldn't strike it all. Oh, his broiler, it was leaking, and his driver's on the bump. His engine and the bearings, they was all out of plumb. Well, Casey Casey Jones, well, he kept his junk pile running. Casey Jones, he was doing double time. Casey Jones, well, he got a wooden medal for being good and faithful on the epi line. Now, we all know that, as seen by Feeney. So come all you railroaders, cause you need to hear a story about a fellow engineer. Tom Harding was the Halker's name, and for the crimes of Ed Burkhart, they're trying to frame. Old Fast Eddie's train that blew up a town, trying to spread the disasters around. Wisconsin, Quebec, and overseas, oh, they want to frame our brother while Ed runs free. Well, in the town of Lac-Megantic, it was up in flames. Eddie said he saw nothing wrong with a one-man train. The government said run them with one employee, and this oil boom is making a ton of cash for me. Well, the people of Lac-Megantic, they said it was not fair for Fast Eddie to go around railroading everywhere, buying short lines just to run them to the ground, making arrogant statements while we burnt to the ground. Well, down in the good old US of A, there's a fight going on today over on a short line in Ohio land. The WL&E, they want to run one man. Ain't that right, Lonnie? Well, negotiations, they've been going on for a long time. The workers have already been out on the picket line. The talks are stalled and at a stalemate because of one-man plan they won't negotiate. So people of Ohio, you better listen up. What town do you want the railroad to blow up? There's nothing safe about a one-man train. When poor Lac-Megantic, it was up in flames. Old Fast Eddie, he blew up a town. Now they want to spread the disasters around. A one-man train, you know it ain't safe. Say no to the route the railroad wants to take. So the workers on the SP line, the strike set out a call. But Casey Jones, the engineer, he wouldn't strike at all. His boiler, it was leaking, and his driver's on the bump. And the engine and the bearings, they was all out of pump. Casey Jones, well, he kept his junk pile running. Casey Jones, he was working double time. Casey Jones, well, he got a wooden medal for being good and faithful on the SP line. Yeah. I guess I got time for one more. Now I'm going to totally break from the whole Joe Hill thing and tell a little story. The interesting part of that story about the WL&E is it's a small railroad over in Ohio. This is folk music, folks. It just is a continuation. Joe Hill was onto something. And there's been a long line of people that do the same thing. You know, I went to Chicago to the Labor Notes Convention and got to hang out with some Wobblies, and they were using new songs. You know, her name was Haley Wallace. I was like, yeah, this woman's really got it going on. They were singing new tunes. You know, this is folk music. Utah Phillips, you know, he said it belongs to us, and thusly you are the folk. So my CDs are out there if you want to support it, and they're $10, but there's $20 ones that are real fat. That basically documents my 14-year career on the railroad. I've got recordings of me playing the drums on the heaters. I've got recordings of the radio. I've got recordings of L&N workers that are going to retire and be the end of the L&N Railroad. It's like a Folkways record, but it don't smell like one. Is there anybody in here who's a record collector? It's like drugs. You open up an old Folkways records, you smell it. You're like, yeah. And your wife looks at you and goes, don't mess with me about my shoes again. So I'm from Kentucky, rich history in Kentucky. So I'll sing you a song about what's happening down there right now. And I got these really interesting folks. You'll figure it out. We got also a really amazing vocal history coming out of the eastern hills of Kentucky. Takes a lot of air. Come on, ye fellow workers, the shots they have been fired. But we won't let them fool us. We know what they conspire. Which side are you on? Oh, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Oh, which side are you on? Mitch and Rand, they've got this legislation. They want to spread that right to work all across the nation. Which side are they on? Oh, which side are they on? Which side are they on? Oh, which side are they on? They're gonna try to fool you, saying you should freely associate. But we know it's the workers' rights that Mitch truly hates. So which side are you on? Oh, 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 workers, can you stand it? Oh, tell me if you can. You'll either join the Coke machine or you'll lend a hand. Oh, which side are you on? 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 Don't listen to the politicians. Don't listen to their lies. Us working folks, we only have a chance if we organize. So which side are you on? Oh, which side are you on? So which side are you on? Oh, which side are you on? My father was a railroader, and I'm a railroader's son. I'm sticking with the Union till all the battles are won. Which side are you on? Oh, which side are you on? Keep going. Which side are you on? Keep going. Which side are you on? Keep going. Solidarity. Thank you so much.
Okay, JP Wright, everyone. All right. So JP got us off to a great start. We heard some Joe Hill songs. Then we also, heard a song too that is very much in keeping with what Joe Hill did in many ways. I mean, he wrote original songs, but then he also took, existing songs, existing melodies, particularly those that were either religious or sacred hymns or the sorts of songs sung by the Salvation Army, and he provided new lyrics for them. And they often had a kind of parodic or satirical edge to them. And now we're very lucky to have with us somebody who's going to tell us more about those songs and how they got collected and kind of circulated across the country through such publications as the IWW's Little Red Songbook. And so please welcome to the stage Alexis Buss.
I don't know which one. This one's good. Thank you so much. There's no actual historians here tonight, I hope. There are. I hope you have hope you've had a few drinks. So here is a nice portrait of Joe Hill. You know, I got interested in Joe Hill reading those horror novels that were released after his death recently. And Sonia's the real historian. She told me it's not the same guy, it turns out. But I do have some good information to share with you anyway. So there were labor songs before Joe Hill, of course, and the IWW also had a very active propaganda machine. I'm going to share with you some of the stuff that they circulated. This is pretty early stuff, 1907, 2 years after the union was founded. Here, I hope you like random pieces of paper coming at you while you're listening to a talk, because that's what's going to happen. Help me out. Thank you. There we go. You just pass them around. Heady stuff. You could order a whole stenographic account of different meetings the IWW had, different editions of Capital, writings of Charles Darwin. They distributed very intellectual stuff in 1907. And I think that kind of went along with the tradition of trying to kind of elevate workers' ideas out of the day-to-day drudgery and kind of bring them into a more intellectual mindset. The next thing I'm going to show you is a cover of the Industrial Worker. This is from, yeah, why don't you step up a little bit? Thank you. Yeah, that's from 1909, and actually this song here, The Red Flag, was the very first song in the very first songbook. Here's an ad for the very first songbook. IWW songbooks, now ready. You can buy 50 for $2.50. And yeah, they were 10 cents each postpaid. On that very cover, actually, of the Industrial Worker, which again you're going to get to pass around, the Salvation Army had made the IWW so mad because they got to proselytize on the streets of Spokane unmolested, while every time IWW people would soapbox, they'd get hauled off to jail. You might know this, but the IWW and the Salvation Army really hate each other's guts. And the Salvation Army turned all of Joe Hill's songs into songs about Jesus. So, it's really disturbing. Anyway, so that tradition, gave us a lot of artwork like this from Walter Crane. This was actually turn of the century stuff. But when we met Joe Hill came to the IWW around 1910. We were talking about, instead of hymns with choruses and stuff, you had Salvation Army bands playing on the street, more popular stuff. People were listening to honky-tonk, ragtime, Tin Pan Alley type stuff. So we went from Walter Crane to Joe Hill, where this was an early postcard that Joe Hill sent a friend of his. It's not exactly political, I don't think, but this was to a friend of his, Charles Rumberg, who he grew up with and then met at, he actually ran into him right after the San Francisco earthquake. And I'm not exactly sure who Varinkala is. It might be about Charles Rumberg, his friend. But here you see a guy oogling a dancer and then going in to check out the show. So Joe Hill, I guess the point is, he was from a more accessible place, a more real place, and he explained it this way. a pamphlet, no matter how good, is never read more than once, but a song is learned by heart and repeated over and over. And I maintain that if a person can put a few common sense facts into a song and dress them up in a cloak of humor, he will succeed in reaching a great number of workers who are too unintelligent or too indifferent to read. And I think a lot of historians have taken that in a very cynical way, but I hear that, and I think it's Joe Hill poking fun at maybe these wobblies who want to push this very heavy stuff on us, and instead he's saying, look, I like this. I like these songs. I don't like the subject matter, but I like the tune. So, you know, what do you think? You're better than me? I think that's it. I think that's the way that he was putting it. Let's see here. So we're going to go with that next one. Thank you. So this is actually an image of a songbook that Joe Hill edited, and he made it while he was in Los Angeles as a benefit for his soon-to-be trip to Mexico to fight in the Mexican Revolution. He headed there in the spring of 1911 and left at the end of June when the revolution was effectively crushed. He ended up going a lot of places between then and when he ended up in Salt Lake. He went to San Diego. He headed up to the Fraser River Valley. That's where he wrote Fraser River Flows in 1912. He became secretary of the San Pedro IWW local a year later. He left a year after that, after spending 30 days in jail, arrested on a vagrancy charge. And then he headed to Salt Lake City. And in January 1914, this is when the incident happened that caused his frame-up arrest. This song, can you go back? This songbook, actually, this was Katie Farr's. And thank you. And if you turn it around, that's Katie Farr. She was the IWW songbird and the daughter of local officers in Spokane. She corresponded a lot with Joe Hill in prison. I don't think that any of her letters to Joe Hill made it out of jail, but a lot of his letters to her she saved. She was famous. She would show up at rallies and sing, and met Gurley Flynn several times, and was clearly a good friend to Joe Hill while he was incarcerated because he wrote her dozens and dozens of letters. He was actually very kind to kids, including Gurley Flynn's son. So in a letter, he encourages her to learn Rebel Girl. You can go to the next one. Thank you. There we go. That's a sheet music to it. Joe Hill wrote it for Elizabeth Gurley Flynn while he was in prison. And that was actually the IWW produced 3 sheet music versions of Joe Hill songs: Rebel Girl, Don't Take My Papa Away From Me, and Workers of the World Awaken, because those were original tunes that he wrote. Most of the music existed other places, but people didn't know the way that the notes went, so the union produced those. So the IWW made these memorial songbooks, which we have replicas of back there. They actually did a whole bunch of different editions. It's funny, it was actually a rare songbook. This isn't exactly a replica. The union had to print on white paper and use red ink because it was during World War I, there was no red dye for paper, so the chemical factories were all from Germany, and they were busy making poison gas or something else, and you couldn't get red dye for paper anymore. So red ink is what you had. Let's see. What else can I tell you? So there's a lot of songbooks that have kind of been lost to history. Basically, the union averaged about an edition a year, sometimes more, through 1928. One of the reasons why it's been lost to history is that the office was a total mess. Actually, yes, thank you. This is actually a picture of a union hall after the Palmer raids. But the theory is that a lot of stuff just disappeared. And also, I have my own theory. There's certain editions that I think weren't actually editions, that we ran out, and then the union didn't know, oh, it's not really a new edition if you just like do another press run. So there's some that there's no record of, like you can see in archives, there's number 10 and number 11, then no 12, 13, 14, and then, oh, there's 15. So we don't know what happened, but who's to say? We never forget, but sometimes we get a little fuzzy. I'll take that one. This is my last one. This is actually one of my favorite covers of songbooks. This is a 28th edition. William Henkelman drew the cover. This was actually a 1945 songbook. This cover has been used in several different editions. That particular image is from one that Utah Phillips gave me. This is his songbook that he used to carry in his pocket. And I just wanted to share it with you. This was his. And in it, I think this is great. Yeah. I've seen a lot of IWW musicians do this. They cut out the IWW directory from the industrial worker, and this is why, if you're an IWW delegate, you might want to think twice about putting your phone number in the paper, because itinerant musicians will call you in the middle of the night and say, hey, I'm 20 miles outside of your city. Can I stay at your house? But I think this is great. And actually, this one that Utah had, he didn't even cut his own paper up. It's Joanna's paper. It's his wife's. He cut his wife's paper up, which I think is awesome. But this is totally in the spirit of the roadshow. This is what we're trying to do. Take some songs on the road, crash on your couch, and give you a good time. So thank you so much for coming out. All right. Yeah. Thank you.
And a big hand for your lovely assistant.
Thank you so much. All right, Sonia. Okay, let's get our... Oh, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Alexis, for that wonderful history lesson. So Chicago is a great labor town, as we all know, but another great labor town is Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, right? You know, Pittsburgh was at the center of the 1877 railroad strikes, as was Chicago, and had a very, profound impact on the events that occurred here in May 1886. And so we're very fortunate to have with us from Pittsburgh a person who the before-mentioned late, great Utah Phillips called the greatest labor singer. Perhaps I'm paraphrasing it a little bit. Is that right? Was that the quote?
We were being interviewed by a magazine, and the fourth time he said, Ann, you're the best labor singer in North America.
North America.
And I said, quit saying that or they're going to write it down. He said, that's why I'm saying it. I don't have a lot of money to give you. If that helps you any, I'll be glad.
Great. And now, Ann Feeney.
So here's the exciting moment when I plug in my guitar, and hopefully none of us suffer permanent hearing loss. Yeah, it's just like Dylan at Woodstock, huh? Or I guess that wasn't Woodstock, was it? I believe that was Newport. Thanks, Nick. Oh, there it is. Well, it's so nice to be here tonight. This is the kickoff for our tour, huh? And we're all very excited and under-rehearsed. I've already lost one capo, and I don't know how to work this one, but I'm going to start off with my favorite Joe Hill song. And if you can't figure out your part, I'm not going to stop to teach you, because I don't think it's a sing-along if you have to spend 20 minutes teaching it. Long-haired preachers come out every night. They want to tell you what's wrong and what's right. But when asked about something to eat, they will answer in voices so sweet. You will eat by and by in that glorious land above the sky. Work and pray, live on hay. You'll get pie in the sky when you die. Oh, that's so nice. You know, it's so wonderful to play to a room of people who know it. I usually have to say, you know, if I'm not scary enough for you, just pretend that I'm Bill O'Reilly and Rush Limbaugh and all the people who have been lying to you. No, actually, Brian, whatever his name was on NBC News, they all lie. They all lie all the time. And it's just so exhilarating and cathartic to scream, "That's a lie!" And you did a very nice job. Oh, the Starvation Army, they play, and they sing, and they clap, and they pray, till they've got all your coin on the drum. Then they'll tell you when you're on the bum. You will eat by and by in that glorious land above the sky. Work and pray, live on hay. You'll get pie in the sky when you die. If you want something good in this life, they're gonna tell you knock it off with all that strife. You're a sinner and bad man, they'll tell. Why, if not, you will all go to hell. That's right. Who intuited that wonderful rejoinder? I rewrote the verse so everybody get a chance to scream, "Go to hell!" You're a sinner and bad man, they tell. Oh, if not, you will all go to hell. Go to hell! And you will eat by and by in that glorious land above the sky. Work and pray, live on hay. You'll get pie in the sky when you die. It's a folk song, so we can give it a happy ending, can't we? Working folk of all countries unite. Side by side, we for freedom will fight. When this world and its wealth we have gained, to those grafters we'll sing this refrain. You will eat by and by, once you've learned how to cook and how to fry. Well, actually, you're opening up a can of worms here. You know, there are a lot of disputed ideas about what should be sung there. When you've learned how to cook and how to fry, the Little Red Songbook says, "in a pan." That didn't thrill too many of us, and so Dave Rovick says, when you've learned how to cook and how to fry, bake a pie. And Evan Greer sings, when you've learned how to cook and how to fry, or dumpster dive. So I leave it to you. You may sing in a pan, dumpster dive, or bake a pie. So we'll see if we can detect a dominant winner. You will eat. What's up with that? You will eat. It sounds like Walter Britton. By and by, once you've learned how to cook and how to fry. From where I'm standing, it sounds like Evan's the winner. Dumpster dive. Oh, you like bacon pie better?
Bacon. B-A-C-O-N.
Bacon pie. I'm not a vegan or anything, but that sounds disgusting. All right, I think we're staying. From up here, it sounded clearly like dumpster dive. Yes? What was that?
Lobster fries.
Okay.
Just get high.
Yeah, what was that?
Just get high. Just get high.
Just get high?
No, put it to work.
I never should have opened up this mic. You know, this is what happens in Madison without opening up the mic. You say, oh, it's so nice to be here in Madison, Wisconsin. We're putting a mic in front of your faces, an invitation to dialogue. Last verse. Working folk of all countries unite. Side by side, we for freedom will fight. When this world and its wealth we have gained, oh, to those grafters we'll sing this refrain. You will eat by and by, once you've learned how to cook and how to fry. Chop some wood, it'll do you good, and you'll eat in that sweet by and by, and that's no lie. Ooh. All right, well, you've been sitting here long enough. I bet everybody in this room has to pee, and we don't want big lines there, so I'm going to share with you a song that I hope is in the spirit of Joe Hill. I'm not a theologian, I'm just sort of a hobbyist. I believe so. But this is a song I wrote, and I think it's a good way to end the set. It's a song about a mine disaster. I mean, this wouldn't be a folk show if we didn't sing a song about a mine disaster, would it? I think I'll finger pick this one. Last night as I lay tossing and a-turning in my bed, I dreamed that I was in the presence of the Lord with a dozen Sago miners who had gone to their reward. God looked down on those miners and he said, "Who has sent my faithful servants here unbidden to my throne? He will answer on that judgment day. Who has left their grieving families heartbroken and alone? He will answer on that judgment day. Oh, he will answer on that judgment day. He will answer on that judgment day. Oh, he will answer on that judgment day. He will answer on that judgment day. I have fashioned those who labor in my image, God did say. I did not call these miners home to me. Many years I had allotted them with friends and family. Now the heavens weep to hear their orphans pray. You cannot serve God and mammon. If it's mammon that you choose, you will answer on that judgment day. Oh, what good is all your wealth if your eternal soul you lose? You will answer on that judgment day. Let me hear you now. You will answer on that judgment day. You will answer on that judgment day. Yes, you will answer on that judgment day. You will answer on that judgment day. It is easier to get a camel through a needle's eye than a rich man into heaven, it's been told. Every time a human life's cut short by avarice for gold, there will be a day of judgment by and by. If you've garnered earthly riches and you come to heaven's door, you will answer on that judgment day. To serve God, you must renounce your wealth and share it with the poor, or you will answer on that judgment day. Yes, you will answer on that judgment day. You will answer on that judgment day. Oh, you will answer on that judgment day. You will answer on that judgment day. To serve God, you must renounce your wealth and share it with the poor, or you will answer on that judgment day. I feel it. I feel it. I feel it in the room. People are being moved. The spirit is rising. You want to share your wealth with the poor. And if you want to do that, it has never been easier. There's a CD table out there that is filled with wonderful things that you can take home with you to inspire you. And I encourage you to do that. We're going to be right back in about, 15, 20 minutes? 10 minutes, he says optimistically. Okay.
Alexis made a reference at the beginning of her talk to knowing Joe Hill through horror novels, which maybe some people out in the audience got, some people didn't. But there is a popular horror novelist now by the name of Joe Hill. He wrote a book called Horns, among other books. But his actual full name is Joseph Hillstrom King. Joe Hill is just his pen name, and that's because he's the son of Stephen King. Stephen and Tabitha King, who named him after Joe Hill, but named him Joseph Hillstrom. Because Joe Hill, before he was Joe Hill, was Joseph Hillstrom. And before he was Joseph Hillstrom, he was Joe Haglund? Where are the Swedes out there to correct my pronunciation? Haglund. And so, when Joe Hill, after he was put in trial and while he was imprisoned in Utah awaiting execution, one of the people to intervene on his behalf was the ambassador from Sweden to the United States, who even managed to enlist the aid of Woodrow Wilson. But their combined efforts were not enough to have Hill's sentence commuted. Today, Hill's birthplace in Sweden is a national monument there that people can go and visit. And so we're very fortunate tonight to have all the way from Sweden to play for us Jan Hammarlund. Is that right? That's good. Okay, good. Thank you. Woo. All right. And now Jan.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. I hope Anne will come up and sing with me shortly. I'd like to start out with a Malvina Reynolds song that I'm sure Joe would have liked. It's called Jailhouse Door. And some of you might know it, actually. Open up the jailhouse door. Open up the jailhouse door. Open wide, open wide. democracy's inside, and we need her as we never did before. The jailhouse, it is an awful place. There was a time when only crime would merit such disgrace. But now if you should chance to say you'd like to see a better day, you're liable to be locked away with bars across your face. Open up the jailhouse door. Please sing it with me. Open up the jailhouse door. Open wide. Open wide. Open wide. For democracy's inside, and we need her as we never did before. The heroes who fight for peace and bread, they should be given glory, but they're given chains instead. And if you want good company, for goodness sake, don't look at me. They're all put under lock and key for fear they might be read. Open up the jailhouse door. Open up the jailhouse door. Open wide for democracy's inside, and we need her as we never did before. It's lonely within these prison gates, and liberty is a prisoner too, who languishes and waits. But when she hears our voices sound, she'll know we've got reaction down that wants to make a prison ground of these United States. Open up the jailhouse door. Open up the jailhouse door. Open wide for democracy's inside, and we need her as we never did before. Well. I was a little disorientated there on the guitar. Well, there is one song. Oh, I'd like to mention that Malvina actually, it's easy to forget that she was actually born 15 years before Joe Hill was executed. And she started writing songs when she was almost 50. And then she churned out those marvelous hits like What Have They Done to the Rain, Little Boxes, and What Have You, Turn Around, and so on. It Isn't Nice, that's another one. One song that we felt we had to include, and because I'm sure you all know it, because Joan Baez sang it in Woodstock, that wonderful, legendary artist. So, but someone also asked me, how does it sound in Swedish? So I'll just sing one verse for you, so you'll know. Jag drömde att jag såg Joe Hill så levande som då. Men Joe, sa jag, du är ju död. Jag lever än, sa Joe. Jag lever än, sa Joe. Okay, here we go then. In your native language. I dreamed I saw Joe Hill last night, alive as you and me. Says I, but Joe, you're 10 years dead. I never died, said he. I never died, said he. In Salt Lake City, Joe, said I, him standing by my bed. They framed you on a murder charge, says Joe, but I ain't dead. Says Joe, but I ain't dead. The copper bosses killed you, Joe. They shot you, Joe, says I. Takes more than guns to kill a man, says Joe. I didn't die, says Joe. I didn't die. And standing there as big as life and smiling with his eyes, says Joe, what they can never kill went on to organize, went on to organize. From San Diego up to Maine, in every mine and mill, where working folks defend their rights, it's there you'll find Joe Hill. It's there you'll find Joe Hill. I dreamed I saw Joe Hill last night. I dreamed I saw Joe Hill last night, alive as you and me. Says I, but Joe, you're 10 years dead. I never died, said he. I never died, said he. Yeah. Well done. And do you want to sing the next one with me? Yeah, okay. So this is I think probably my favorite among Joe Hill's songs. And people don't sing it very often. I don't know why. The tune was composed by Percy Wenrich, and Joe set the new words to it. And it's called What We Want. It's pretty much in the ragtime kind of way. I think it's a two-step actually. If someone can dance the two-step for us afterwards, it would be nice to see.
Chicken dance?
We want all the workers in the world to organize into a great big union grand. And when we all together stand, the world for workers will demand. If the working class could only see and realize what mighty power labor has, then the exploiting master class, it would soon fade away. Come all ye toilers who work for wages, come from every land. Join the fighting band into one union grand. Then for the workers we'll build upon this earth of paradise. When the slaves get wise, get wise, get wise and organize. We want the sailor and the tailor and the lumberjack and all the cooks and laundry girls. We want the guy who dives for pearls, the pretty maid who's making curls, and the baker and the staker and the chimney sweep. We want the guy who's slinging hash, the child who works for a little cash in one union grand. Come all ye toilers who work for wages, come from every land. Join the fighting band into one union grand. Then for the workers we'll build upon this earth of paradise. When the slaves get wise, get wise, get wise and organize. We want the tinner and the skinner and the chambermaid. We want the guy who spikes our souls. We want the gal who's digging holes. We want the guy who's climbing poles. And the trucker and the mucker and the hired man and all the factory girls and clerks. Yes, we want everyone who works in one union grand. Come all ye toilers who work for wages, come from every land. Join our fighting band into one union grand. Then for the workers we'll build upon this earth the slaves, get wise, get wise, get wise, and organize. Thank you, Anne. Yes. The story behind this album that thank you. Yeah. Well, you weren't here for the first song. Oh, I spent a summer in Berkeley with Malvina Reynolds at her home in 1977. God, I'm old. I don't know how. A woman came up to me a couple of years ago at a festival after I'd been singing and said, "Oh, you have such a clear, beautiful voice. You know, one wouldn't think so from the sight of you." And I'm sure she meant well, you know. I'm sure she did. Thank you, I suppose. Well, anyway, I'm going to finish with another Malvina Reynolds song. I recently watched the picture Selma, and it made a tremendous impression on me. And now that I know that the Voting Rights Act is threatened again, I think this song really fits in quite nicely. It's a song that I think that Malvina actually wrote it in 1964, when Afro-Americans were really struggling all over the country to get to register to vote. And I feel that now, in a sense, I can sing it from here, from 2015, directed to those marvelous people who faced all that danger and hostility half a century ago and still walked. Are you walking there for me? Are you walking there for me? When you go up to the courthouse in the town of Albany. When you're walking up to register, a gun held at your face, are you walking in my place to set me free? Here I live in happy town with my freedoms all around. When I go to cast my ballot, there is none to put me down. But a man in Mississippi, he will register and die, and my vote's an empty lie while that can be. You are far across the land, and I cannot reach your hand, but the selfsame flag is flying from the courthouse where you stand. And my guarantees of justice are a bitter mockery when they do not reach a hand to set you free. All the nation's men of law, they are only men of straw, while you're being jailed and beaten 'cause you knocked on freedom's door. And the thug that jails and beats you also drives me to my knee when you're walking there for me to set me free. Are you walking there for me? Are you walking there for me? When you go up to the courthouse in the town of Albany. When you're walking up to register, a gun held at your face, are you walking in my place to set me free? Would I be as brave as you? Would I live through what you do? Would I face the whip and pistol to make freedom's dream come true? There are heroes in our country, brave as all in history, and they're walking there for me, for you and me. Thank you.
Let's hear it again for Jan. So, in 1927, Illinois native, this child of Swedish immigrants, and a poet by then known and famous for his poem Chicago, Carl Sandburg in 1927 published The American Song Bag, and it was at the time the most extensive and authoritative anthology of American songs, stretching from figures who, like JP referenced at the beginning of the evening, Stephen Foster, all the way through Joe Hill, who was included, in this anthology with all of the other great American music by Carl Sandburg. And I just learned that apparently our next performer first encountered Joe Hill in the pages of the American Song Bag, edited by Carl Sandburg, and loved the book so much, which he read at his local public library, that he took it home with him permanently. Wait, change it.
The true story, I went back 4 years later and returned the book.
4 years later, okay. What kind of fine would you have had at that point? Oh my God, I don't even want to think about that. But much like Sandburg, our next performer is a scholar as well as a singer and songwriter, and it was a major organizer behind this event, and is someone who's keeping alive both folk music and American music, both here in Illinois and across the country. And so we're very fortunate to have here tonight at the Hideout, Bucky Halker.
I know you're all wondering why I've got that silly ukulele here, but I promise I'll explain it to you as we get in here for a second here. Is this going to work okay for you, Nick, where we're here? All right. Let me grab a couple things here to make sure I've got all my tools before we jump in. And I wanted to thank Paul for doing the MC job tonight. It's a thankless task, but Paul's been very good about doing that. And also the Labor History Society for supporting us in various events and the thing today at Haymarket. And the performers too, and we're going to be doing all the hot spots in the next several days. Sheboygan, Oshkosh, Green Bay. Yeah, being from northern Wisconsin, those, actually anything south of Highway 8 we called the Confederacy when I was growing up. So it's yes, it was too warm. I've never adapted to the Chicago climate, which sounds so weird because everybody here complains about the cold, and to me it's like being in the tropics. But I'm what they call a Jack Pine savage, so that's the way it is. All right, well, we got to play a little music here and not talk too much. I want to do this song. I'm going to do a couple songs here, Joe Hill pieces on the front end that have to do with women. This is one of my favorite tunes. I've actually recorded this twice now, which I can't believe. I recorded it many years ago, and then just recently I'm doing this Joe Hill CD project, and I had Kathy Richardson, a great singer here in town. Kathy's an interesting story. Her career was literally ruined by 9/11. She was doing a really, really popular off-Broadway play about Janis Joplin, and doing a lot of commercial work, and then all of a sudden 9/11, that was it. The play died, the commercial work stopped, and it was kind of over. She had a meeting with I'm repeating her life story, a major record label on 9/11, which got canceled, of course, and that's how it went. So anyway, she's going to be on this new record, and I'm really happy that she was able to do that. So you're going to have to suffer through my version. This is called Rebel Girl. This is a song that Joe Hill wrote for Elizabeth Gurley Flynn. Flynn was a spirited orator who kind of distinguished herself at a very young age and caught Joe Hill's attention, and Ann talked about her earlier. So I just wanted to make sure I got this tune in there. So here we go. There are women of many descriptions in this queer world, as everyone knows. Yeah, sing. They are living in beautiful mansions. They are wearing the finest of clothes. There are blue-blooded queens and princesses who have charms made of diamonds and pearls. But the only and thoroughbred lady is a rebel girl. That's a rebel girl, the rebel girl to the working class. She's a precious pearl. She brings courage, pride, and joy to a fighting rebel boy. We've had girls before, but we need some more in the industrial workers of the world. Boy, it's great to fight for freedom with a rebel girl. Yes, her hands may be hardened from labor, and her dress may not be very fine, but her heart in her bosom is beating. That is true to her class and her kind. And the crafters in terror are trembling when her spite and defiance she hurls. For the only and thoroughbred lady is a rebel girl. Here we go. That's a rebel girl, the rebel girl to the working class. She's a precious pearl. She brings courage, pride, and joy to a fighting rebel boy. We've had girls before, but we need some more in the industrial workers of the world. Oh, it's great to fight for freedom with a rebel girl. Oh, it's great to fight for freedom with a rebel girl. All right. Okay, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna give it. This is a ukulele. Now you're gonna wonder, ukulele more correctly, why I'm doing this. Most people don't know that Joe Hill actually traveled to Hawaii, and in fact, he wrote a song which is in the Gurley Flynn. It's in her personal collection in the archives in New York, which I haven't seen. I think it's called My Trip to Hawaii, if I remember correctly. Honolulu, My Trip to Honolulu. And not too many people have brought this up. They did say it a little bit. Paul brought this up, but one of the things that's really most distinctive about Joe Hill was that, unlike, say, Woody Guthrie, who borrowed a lot from, say, hymns, but also early country music, and many of the late singers going back to the 19th century borrowed from hymns, but Hill would also borrowed a lot from music hall and kind of early vaudeville. That was the popular music of the day. So it's a little, that music, I think it's because he probably had musical training as a kid. It's just a little more, chordally, it's a little more interesting. So I was faced with this task here. When Joe Hill was arrested, there were 3 songs that were found after his arrest, 2 in his apartment in Salt Lake, and then later one was found in the archives, the Royal Archives in Sweden, none of which had been recorded. And all 3 of them are love songs. And there's an interesting comment that Joe Hill made before he was executed to Elizabeth Gurley Flynn. He looked out the window and he saw the groundskeeper out there who was a Mormon. And I always say, having spent a lot of time in an LDS heavily populated area, if you and I were there, we would be executed today. I don't, yeah, you should, I remember when Utah Phillips ran a coffee house in, near an air base. He and Rosalie Sorrells, this was in Idaho, Mormon country, especially now. They've colonized and taken it over. I mean, I don't want to, you don't want to get me started on them, but yeah, they were firebombed there. And yeah, it's an interesting area. I lived in Idaho for 6 years. My wife is from Mormon country, solid Mormon country. She was, she was an infidel, basically, in the ranks. But I thought to myself, well, here's one of these Joe Hill songs that nobody's recorded before. All we have are the lyrics. And I thought I should use vaudeville as a model, so I had to go back and listen to early Irving Berlin and these other people. And I want to play this because, to me, it shows you a totally different side of Joe Hill. And I mentioned the Mormon thing because he looked out the window when he was there with Elizabeth Gurley Flynn, and there was a Mormon groundskeeper out there. And he said, "You see that guy out there?" She goes, "Yeah." And he goes, that guy out there has 2 wives, and I'm never going to even have one. And I think, he was, he was willing to die for what he believed in, but I think he also would have wished he could have, maybe fallen in love and had kind of a semi-normal, radical life, like some radicals still have. This is called My Dreamland Girl Divine. Would you like to get acquainted with my dreamland girl divine? Never was a picture painted fairer than that girl of mine. Sweet and graceful like a pansy, bright and charming like a pearl. She's the idol of my fancy, she's my own dreamland girl. Charming fairy queen of my dreams, ere before me your face brightly beams. Night and day I'm dreaming of you. Someday my sweet dreams perhaps will come true. Someday my sweet dreams perhaps will come true. She is coy and captivating, Venus-like in grace and pose, with an air more fascinating than the fragrance of the rose. Like the stars, her eyes are shining neath a wealth of golden hair. My heart is ever pining for my dreamland girl so fair. Charming fairy queen of my dreams, ere before me your face brightly beams. Night and day I'm dreaming of you. Someday my sweet dreams perhaps will come true. Charming fairy queen of my dreams, there before me your face brightly beams. Night and day I'm dreaming of you. Someday my sweet dreams perhaps will come true. Someday my sweet dreams perhaps will come true. Someday my sweet dreams perhaps will come true. Yes, that may have been the world premiere of that Joe Hill song. So there you go, you got it. Yeah, it's fun. And, there is some reference to the fact that he actually hung out with the indigenous people in the Pacific Islands when he was on that road. Yeah, in fact, this is a nice little segue. We'll do this tune because there was a guy, I've got a recording of him. It was done in 1961 named Paul Durica, who was an old wobbly musician here. He was in his late 80s when he made the recording. He froze to death under an underpass here. He was 90-some years old, but Art Thiem, the great musician from Chicago, recorded him before then. And he talked about going on the road with Joe Hill. Now, other people used to say that, but he said he made the trip to Hawaii with Joe Hill, and they actually played music with some of the local people. But one of the tunes that's on that tape, it's not a Joe Hill tune, but I wanted to play it tonight. It's one of my old favorites, old wobbly tunes. Who wrote this is a subject of some dispute. There was a wobbly named Haywire Mac, Harry McClintock, who claimed that he wrote this. Haywire Mac actually recorded this in the 20s and was like a minor country hit in the early days. And a lot of those old wobblies like to take credit for all kinds of things. It's kind of funny. As they got older, they had a lot of good stories. You know, so like folk musicians are like politicians. They never let the facts stand in the way of a good story. So let's do this one. This is based on an old Protestant hymn. And it was popular here in Chicago, we know that. The hymn was called Hallelujah, I Am Saved, but I'm going to do it as Hallelujah, I'm a Bum, which the Wobblies used to sing because they were on the street corners with the Salvation Army. Well, how do you shut up the Salvation Army if you're in Bug House Square here, or you're downtown, or if you're in San Pedro, or you're in Duluth, or Spokane, or Seattle? Well, you out-sing them. You shut up their brass bands and take their words and shove them down their throats. So all you got to do on this, I mean, I teach this to first graders all the time. We know. My nephew, when he was 5, I taught him that little preamble to the IWW Constitution. There's nothing, I mean, the working class and the ruling class have nothing in common. And he would go around saying that around the house. Much to my dad's chagrin, he was pretty put off by that. And I just, well, Daddy had to learn something somewhere along the line. So anyway, just yell hallelujah, that'll do it. We'll get through the song somehow. Why don't you work like the other men do? How the hell can you work when there's no work to do? Here we go. Hallelujah, I'm a bum. Hallelujah, bum again. Hallelujah, give us a handout to revival, say again. Why don't you save some of the money that you earn? If I didn't eat, I'd have money to burn. Here we go. Hallelujah, I'm a bum. Hallelujah, bum again. Hallelujah, give us a handout to revival us again. You know, I love my boss. He's a good friend of mine. That's why I'm standing on the unemployment line. Hallelujah, I'm a bum. Hallelujah, bum again. Hallelujah, give us a handout to revive us again. I went to this house and I knocked on the door. The lady said, "Scram bum, I've seen you before." Hallelujah, I'm a bum. Hallelujah, bum again. Hallelujah, gives a handout to revive us again. Whenever I get all the money that I've earned, my boss will be broke and to work he will turn. Hallelujah, I'm a bum. Hallelujah, bum again. Hallelujah, gives a handout to revive us again. To revive us again. To revive us again. Okay, now, let me see here. I got to think about this because I know I have a finite quantity of time up here, like Ann and JP, and I'm trying to figure out what it is I want to do here with my limited. All right, well, Tony, she's the boss lady back there. I married up. How can I say? Tony, do you want to hear Eisenhower blues? You want to hear bourgeois blues? What would you rather hear? Bourgeois. All right. Okay, now I'll play the bourgeois blues. I got to tell you this story about the song because I don't do it like anybody else. My friend says I do the bourgeois version of the bourgeois blues. Really, here's what it is. I was influenced a lot. When I first started being serious about folk music, I was actually a piano player. In fact, I'll tell you the story the first time I met Bruce Phillips because I played this song that night. I learned this song when I was 15 years old, Bourgeois Blues. And I grew up on Lake Superior in northern Wisconsin. And this guy taught me this song. And my first real serious gig, we had this little music festival in my town at the college. And for some reason, they asked me to come there. I was 15. I didn't have my driver's license. I had to walk up there. And I was getting ready to go on, and there was nobody else in the green room except Utah Phillips, and he had a big bottle of Jack Daniels there. And I thought to myself, well, that looks pretty good. And I'm not kidding. I had a couple drinks. I went out and did my set, and I came back, and he didn't go on until a lot later, and he and I finished that whole bottle of Jack Daniels. Now, you can imagine, at 15, that was like the coolest thing that could have ever happened, to be able to hang out with Utah Phillips and do that. So I was always glad. And I was fortunate over the years, because I lived in Idaho, and he was living in Spokane. I was able to book him. I ran the college coffee house when I was going to school out there. And anyway, this was, as a kid, I loved this song when I was about 15. I lived in this town, and it's like, it's like it was a real blue-collar, run-down town. It just keeps going down and down, the population. But there was a real conservative, sort of petty bourgeois downtown. We were surrounded by American Indians where I grew up. We had a lot of Indian reservations, and they were, so they were like the black people in my community for the downtown business people. They didn't like them. They made all sorts of derogatory remarks. I could probably run off a name of slang terms for American Indians that most of which you probably never heard before, and these guys would just mouth it off all the time. And the thing about it, in a small town, you could tell somebody, you're stinking bourgeois, and they didn't know what the hell you were talking about. It was the coolest thing. You stinking bourgeois pig. It was very cool. Yeah, so I learned this song, then over the years, I started on the piano, and then I changed it, and blah, blah, blah. And so finally it ended up with this. Basically, it's a West Coast 1940 style blues tune. Not really a bourgeois version, but a West Coast R&B kind of version of the bourgeois blues. There you go. That's it. Tom Jackson, it's for you. Me and Martha, we were all over town. Where we'd go, they would turn us down. It's such a bourgeois town. It's such a bourgeois town. I got the bourgeois blues. I gotta spread that news all around. Me and my wife, we were standing downstairs. We heard the man say, we don't want your kind round here. It's a bourgeois town. Yeah, it's a bourgeois town. I got the bourgeois blues, gotta spread that news all around. All those folks down in Washington, they know how to throw a good man a nickel just to see him bow. That's a bourgeois town. That's a bourgeois town. I got the bourgeois blues, gotta spread that news all around. Now the DAR wouldn't let Marian Anderson in, but Mrs. Roosevelt was her best friend in that bourgeois town. In that bourgeois town. I got the bourgeois blues. I gotta spread that news all around. All you folks that you listen to me, do not be mistreated by no bourgeoisie in some bourgeois town. In some bourgeois town. I got the bourgeois blues, I gotta spread that news all around. This is the land of the brave, this is the home of the free, but I will not be defeated by its bourgeoisie in some bourgeois town. In some bourgeois town. I got the bourgeois blues, I gotta spread that news all around. Spread that news all around. Spread that news all around. Spread that news around. You got the bourgeois blues. I got the bourgeois blues. I gotta spread the news all around. All right. Okay, thank you so much. Hey, we need to get everybody else back up here. We got to sing one more tune tonight. Yeah. What's that? I'm sorry. Oh, the wheel. I'm sorry. We got to get Jan up here. Yeah. You want to come up and do that right now? Yeah, okay. We got to get Jan up here to do one piece because we've neglected to get this in here in any way, and we got to do this. Right, Jan? Absolutely. Yes, he said earlier it was imperative, I think was the term, imperative. He issued a declamation. All right. It's 1 minute long.
Yeah, because Joe Hill never wasted any time or any words, I think. So what happened in his prison cell only a few hours before he was to go out and get executed was that he wrote his will. And it would feel kind of weird to have applause after a song like this. So why don't we just, have a moment of silence before we all come up here and sing one last song with all of you. My will is easy to decide, for there is nothing to divide. My kin don't need to fuss and moan, moss does not cling to a rolling stone. My body, oh, if I could choose, I would to ashes it reduce, and let the merry breezes blow my dust to where some flowers grow. Perhaps some fading flower then would come to life and bloom again. This is my last and final will. Good luck to all of you. Joe Hill. Will you come up with us? Yes. Okay. So we're going to end with a song that we think you all know. I know Anne has updated and rewritten a few verses. I only know the chorus, like many of you probably, and we hope you will join in. Oh. Yes, ma'am. You play it? No? Yeah, great.
Yeah, and everybody sing along. You all know the chorus, I'm sure. And you're going to sing some different lyrics?
Well, they're not that different.
All right. How about JP, you're going to get up there and sing one of these verses?
They're elevated.
Good. All right, let's put that right here. I'll just knock this over.
I'm just doing this for advertising purposes.
Oh,
your advertising. All right.
How do you
When the
get one of those
union's
books?
inspiration through the workers'
There can be no power greater anywhere beneath the sun. Oh, what force on earth is weaker than the feeble strength of one? Oh, the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Oh, the union makes us strong.
They have taken untold millions that they never toiled to earn.
But without our brain and muscles, not a single wheel would turn. We can break their haughty power, gain our freedom when we learn that the union makes us strong.
All right, everybody now.
Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. Tell me what we have in common with some greedy parasite who would lash us into or just crush us with his might. Is there anything left to us but to organize and fight? And the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong.
All the world that's owned by idle drones is ours and ours alone. We have laid the foundation, built it skyward,
Stone by stone, it is ours not to slave in, but to cherish as our own.
The union makes us
Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong.
In our
Hands is placed a power greater than their hoarded gold, greater than the might of armies magnified 1,000-fold.
we can bring to earth a new world on the ashes of the old. For the union makes us strong.
Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong.
And Feeney, J.P. Wright, Jan Hammarlund, and I'm Bucky Halker. And thanks to Alexis Buss and Paul Durica as well, the Joe Hill Roadshow. Thank you.
And Nick for running the sound.
Nick.